Welcome back to the channel. This is S.O.G. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 best budget micro red dots for concealed carry. Now, when I made this list, it was with 3 things in mind besides affordability, and that was that they had to be reliable, micro-sized, and enclosed. All right, let's get into the top 5. The first on the list should be no surprise to anybody, and that's the O.S.I.T. SE. Honestly, this might just be the best value on this entire list, but anytime we talk about affordable red dots, the O.S.I.T. SE has to get mentioned. And the first thing you notice when you buy one of these is the presentation. The packaging and support behind the product are surprisingly good for a budget optic. And another area where the O.S.I.T. really stands out is that it has a very clear window, a crisp dot, and great customer service, which is impressive considering the price point. And in many ways, this optic actually feels like an EPS carry, even though you're only paying like a third of the price. And the only downside I've heard of, because we got to be real and we got to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's a great dot, but the only con I've heard of is a little bit of glare on the glass in certain lighting conditions. Personally, I've never had that issue, but like I said, we want to be clear and transparent with this review. And overall, if you're trying to stretch your dollar as far as possible, this optic is a must-have. Next on the list is going to be the EM1 from Zero Hawk. And honestly, this feels as if the EPS carry and the O.S.I.T. SE had a baby. This optic comes with a ton of features and add-ons. It's an RMSC footprint, but you also get an RMR and an MOS adapter plate, so you can run it on multiple firearms. You get solid build quality, good reliability, a lot of functionality that you would expect from more expensive optics. And the biggest advantage here, like I said, is value for the money. You get a lot included with this optic without having to pay a premium price. And the only real downside so far that I've noticed is that it's relatively new to the market, so it doesn't have a long track record like some of the other optics on this list have yet. But so far, it's been extremely impressive. We did put this thing through a torture test, and it survived every bit of it and held zero at the range. I do have video on that if you guys want to check that out. But otherwise, another must-have. This is the Zero Hawk EM1. Next up is the Cat EDG, which is, in my opinion, the tank of the budget red dot world. I actually ran this optic through an extreme torture test, and it held up zero through everything I threw at it. And that kind of durability is pretty impressive, no matter the price point. The housing is thick and rugged, and the optic feels extremely solid in the hand. The main advantage here is durability and reliability. If you want something that can take abuse and keep going, the Cat EDG is definitely something that earns its place on this list. But one small downside is that the optic does have slight overhang on some of the smaller micro guns, and depending on the firearm you put it up to, you might or might not get some of that overhang. But if ruggedness is your priority, this thing is a beast. I put it through probably the worst torture test I've done on an optic, and I've got that video if you guys want to check that out as well. But otherwise, another reliable option and one of my favorites, the Cat EDG. Next on the list is the Vortex Defender CCW enclosed emitter red dot, and this one goes up in price just a little bit, but it's a very popular carry optic. Now, Vortex has built a strong reputation for making high quality optics, and this one looks really good on just about any gun you put it on. One of the biggest selling points here is a textured or stippled front panel, which helps in racking the pistol from the dot with no damage. This optic also features a large solar panel, helping extend the battery life. And one of the biggest downsides on this one, in my personal experience, is the battery tray. I'm not a huge fan of battery trays that are on the side, because that could mean that the little prongs in there loosen up during harsh impact, and it doesn't come with co-witnessing rear sights. Something just to keep in mind, but with Vortex's reputation and warranty backing it up, it's still a very solid choice. And last but not least, you guessed it, the Holosun EPS carry. This is basically the gold standard of any micro pistol optics, and it's easily the most popular optics on the market, and for good reason. It's a fully enclosed emitter, just like everything else on this list, but that basically means no dust, lint, or debris can block that emitter. And one of the standout features in this one in specific is the solar backup system, which helps extend the battery life and keeps the optic running in bright conditions. Holosun also offers multiple reticle options depending on the variation you choose and the version that you like. Now, that's one of the biggest things with them, is that they have so many different options for you. Not only do they have red, but they have green and gold, and the build quality is excellent, the glass is clear, and the reliability is proven. The only real downside here is the price point. Now, while it's still considered a budget optic compared to premium brands, it's the most expensive option on this list. But if you want a proven optic that just works, the EPS carry is hard to beat. Next, we got the red dot comparison chart that I made. If you take a look on the left-hand side from top to bottom, you'll see all of the optics listed, and on the top from left to right, all of the features we're comparing. Now, I made this easy to read. You guys can pause this video and take a look at it, but green basically means best in category, red means the worst in the category. We're going to go ahead and mount these on the same handgun so you guys can take a look to see how they co-witness on the same gun. There's no difference, so we're going to see how they co-witness and see how they fit. Starting with the O-Sight SE, good looking dot. Here's co-witnessing on it. Really good co-witness. But unfortunately, even though this is a direct mount, you don't need adapter plates. There is a little bit of a gap, a little bit of light that protrudes between the optic and the gun. Here is the Zero Hawk EM1. Here's the co-witnessing. So not as much of a co-witness as the SE, but you still get something out of it. And this one sits flush against the slide, no adapter plates, and there's no light gap or anything like that in between the gun and the optic. Next up is the Siley Cat EDG. Looks really good on this prime. Here's a co-witnessing. So again, really good co-witnessing there with the iron sights. A little bit of overhang, like I said. Nothing too crazy, but you get a direct fitment. No gaps, no light that protrudes between the optic or the gun. Vortex Defender CCW, another great looking dot. Here's the co-witness on it. So you kind of almost don't even get a co-witness out of this one, but it sits again really flush, no adapter plates, no light protrudes between the optic and the gun. And last but not least, Holosun EPS carry, another great looking dot, and here's the co-witness on that one. So you get a really good co-witness. This one has a nice low deck height. And unfortunately for this one, it sits flush with no adapter plate, but there is a little bit of light that protrudes underneath there, a slight gap. Next up, we're going to crank up the brightness setting on all of these at max to see which angle gives us the worst glare. So I think it's safe to say that looking at these side by side, each optic really shines in a different category. The O-Sight SE kills it with presentation, battery life, and overall value, while the EM1 gives you the most features for the money as the new guy on the block. The Cat EDG is probably the toughest optic physically on this list, and the Vortex Defender, having that stippling up on front and that large solar panel up on top. Then let's not forget about the Holosun EPS carry, which leads in overall reliability and waterproofing. Well, that'll wrap it up for this video. If it was helpful, go ahead and give the video a like, drop a comment, and let me know which of these you would put on your EDC. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But if you already have, you know I appreciate you guys so much. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.